As the last surviving member of the Beverly Hillbillies, a lifetime of untold stories has been quietly waiting behind the gates of television's most iconic mansion. Now, Max Baer Jr. is finally pulling back the curtain. For decades, fans have wondered what really happened behind the scenes, especially when it comes to his relationship with Irene Ryan. Was there real tension between them, or was it all just part of the act? At 88 years old, Baer is finally ready to tell the truth. And that's not all. We'll also explore a life shaped by massive fame, unexpected setbacks, and legal battles that stretched across decades. Born Maximilian Adelbert Baer Jr., he would go on to become one of television's most recognizable faces. An actor, comedian, producer, and director best known for playing the lovable but dim-witted Jethro Bodine. From that moment on, his life became a whirlwind of success, laughter, and challenges. But to truly understand his journey, we have to go back to where it all began. The 1960s were a turbulent time in America. With the civil rights movement gaining momentum and the Vietnam War dominating headlines, the nation was searching for an escape. And television delivered exactly that. Shows began leaning into light-hearted storytelling, offering comfort in uncertain times. That's where the Beverly Hillbillies came in. Premiering on CBS in 1962, the show followed the Clampett family, simple folks from the Ozarks who suddenly struck oil and moved to the lavish world of Beverly Hills. Within just 3 weeks, it became the #1 show in America. But its impact went far beyond ratings. The series introduced the hillbilly as a national character, something critics often dismissed as lowbrow humor, yet audiences couldn't get enough of. Because beneath the jokes, there was something deeper. Despite their lack of sophistication, the Clampetts were portrayed as kind, honest, and morally grounded, often standing in contrast to the wealthy elites around them. At a time when the world felt chaotic, the show became a kind of emotional release, a safety valve for millions of viewers. It also helped define an entirely new genre, the rural sitcom. Created by Paul Henning, the series became so influential that CBS itself earned the nickname Country Broadcasting System. It's remarkable how such a simple concept could leave such a lasting legacy, one that still echoes in television today. But of course, none of it would have worked without the cast. The heart of the show was its characters, brought to life by unforgettable performances from actors like Buddy Ebsen, Donna Douglas, Nancy Culp, Irene Ryan, Raymond Bailey, and of course, Max Baer Jr. himself. Today, he is the only one still alive. On screen, Baer played Jethro Bodine, the well-meaning but slow-witted relative of Jed Clampett. At times, he even portrayed Jethro's twin sister in comedic drag, adding another layer to his performance. Meanwhile, Irene Ryan took on the role of Granny, the sharp-tongued, fiercely independent matriarch of the family. But what was it really like behind the cameras? After decades of silence, Baer has finally opened up. In a 2024 interview, he revealed something many fans might not expect. The cast wasn't always the perfect family they appeared to be. In fact, according to Baer, the reality was far more complicated. He described their dynamic as being like a cat and a dog, constantly clashing yet learning to coexist because they had no other choice. Spending years together on set inevitably led to disagreements. And Baer didn't hold back. He admitted that arguments were common, sometimes even intense. There were moments when he clashed with Irene Ryan, times when tensions with Donna Douglas would leave her in tears, and even occasions when Buddy Ebsen would grow frustrated enough to walk away mid-conversation. But to Baer, this wasn't unusual. It was real life. He pushed back against the idea, often presented in Hollywood, that casts are always one big happy family. From his perspective, that image was far from the truth. Because the closer people are, the more likely they are to clash, and, after 9 seasons together, that kind of friction was almost inevitable. Still, despite the disagreements, there was a deeper bond. Baer made it clear, no matter how much they argued, they were protective of each other. If conflict came from outside their circle, he was the first to step in and defend his co-stars. Because, in the end, they were a team. And while landing a role in Hollywood is never easy, Baer had an unexpected source of support during his early days: Irene Ryan herself. According to television historian Stephen Cox, fate brought Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan together at a crucial moment. They were both auditioning on the very same day. Baer for Jethro, Ryan for Granny. During a break, the two stepped out for lunch at a small spot called The Shack, located near General Service Studios, where the screen tests were being held. That lunch would become unforgettable. Ryan ordered martinis. Baer, not much of a drinker, quickly felt the effects. Later, he recalled how the alcohol hit him harder than expected. When he returned to the audition, still feeling the buzz, something unexpected happened. As he walked into the cabin set for his scene, he accidentally slammed his shoulder into the doorframe. Then, with a dazed smile, he looked at it and politely said, "Excuse me." It was clumsy, awkward, and completely unplanned. But it was also perfect. What Baer didn't realize at the time was that this unscripted moment was exactly what the producers were looking for. In that instant, they saw Jethro. The awkward charm, the innocent confusion. It all came naturally. And just like that, the role was his. Looking back, it's clear that despite occasional tensions, the cast of the Beverly Hillbillies shared a genuine bond. What audiences saw on screen wasn't entirely an illusion. It was built on real chemistry, even if it wasn't always perfect. And these behind-the-scenes moments are just the beginning. Because the story of the show itself is filled with surprising twists. The 1960s may have been a time of turmoil, but for Paul Henning, it became the foundation for something extraordinary. Long before the show aired, Henning had an idea, one that came to him while traveling through the rural American South in the 1950s. He began to imagine what would happen if a simple country family were suddenly uprooted and dropped into a world of wealth and modern luxury. That simple question gave birth to the Beverly Hillbillies. Interestingly, the show almost had a different name. Originally, the pilot was filmed under the title The Hillbillies of Beverly Hills. But just before its premiere, the network decided it was too long and clunky for television promotion. So, it was shortened to the now iconic title, The Beverly Hillbillies. A small change, but one that made all the difference. There were other changes behind the scenes as well. Buddy Ebsen, who played Jed Clampett, had strong opinions about his character. While Jed was meant to be a simple man from humble beginnings, Ebsen didn't want him portrayed as foolish or unintelligent. He pushed the writers to adjust the role, shaping Jed into someone more grounded, wise, and sensible. That decision helped define the character audiences came to love. Even the setting of the show almost turned out very differently. At one point, producers considered setting the story in New York City instead of California. But Henning ultimately decided against it. The reason? Cost. Filming in New York would have been far more expensive. So instead, the Clampetts found their new home in Beverly Hills, a decision that became central to the show's identity. Still, the series did eventually feature an episode set in New York, giving viewers a glimpse of what might have been. Of course, one of the most iconic elements of the show was the mansion itself. The grand estate used for filming actually belonged to Arnold Kirkby. To use the property, producers paid him $500 per day. Sadly, Kirkby passed away before the show even premiered. And after his death, things took an unexpected turn. His widow reportedly violated the agreement by revealing the home's location to the public. Soon, fans began flocking to the mansion. The attention became overwhelming, so much so that filming outdoor scenes became nearly impossible due to constant interruptions. While Baer Jr. has since shed light on the overall dynamics of the cast, not every relationship was entirely smooth. In fact, there was known tension between Buddy Ebsen and Nancy Culp. On screen, Culp's character was warm and accommodating toward the Clampetts. But off-screen, things could get heated. The reason? Politics. Multiple accounts suggest their disagreements often started calmly, but eventually escalated into arguments, sometimes involving raised voices and sharp words. Fortunately, those clashes never spiraled out of control. And despite their differences, there was no lasting bitterness between them. Now, here's a detail many fans never noticed. We all know Baer Jr. as Jethro, the lovable but not so bright character. But what many don't realize is that he also played Jethro's twin sister, Jethrine. Yes, Jethrine appeared in multiple episodes, with Baer dressed in drag, complete with wig and costume. But there's a twist. The voice you heard? That wasn't Baer. It actually belonged to Linda K. Henning, a voice actress who dubbed Jethrine's lines. And here's the interesting part. She was the daughter of the show's creator, Paul Henning. In this case, that bit of family casting worked perfectly. Without her voice, Jethrine simply wouldn't have had the same charm. But not all behind-the-scenes stories were as lighthearted. At one point, the world of toys collided with the show in an unexpected way. In 2010, Mattel, the creators of Barbie, released a line of pop culture dolls. One of them looked strikingly similar to Ellie Mae Clampett. The outfit, the hairstyle, even the overall look. It closely mirrored the character played by Donna Douglas. But instead of feeling honored, Douglas took legal action. She sued Mattel, claiming they had used her likeness without permission. The case didn't drag on for long. It was settled in 2011. Legal battles seemed to follow the cast in different ways. Baer Jr. himself also found his way into a courtroom, this time against the network. Years after the show ended, Baer had secured rights connected to his character, Jethro. So when CBS reportedly partnered with a restaurant chain called Jethro's BBQ, he wasn't happy. From his perspective, the network was profiting from his character's name. He filed a lawsuit. But in the end, the court ruled against him, stating there was no clear financial harm caused by the deal. Today, the restaurant chain continues to operate independently. Back on the lighter side, the show also attracted some surprising guest appearances. One of the biggest came from John Wayne. A true Hollywood legend, known for his roles in westerns and war films, Wayne made a cameo on the series. And his payment? Not a massive paycheck. Not a contract deal. Just a simple request. A bottle of bourbon. It's a small detail, but one that perfectly captures his larger-than-life persona. Casting decisions also shaped the show in unexpected ways. Bea Benaderet, who played Pearl Bodine, nearly took on a completely different role. Initially, she auditioned for Granny. But after reading the script more closely, she decided to step away from that part. In hindsight, it worked out perfectly, because her portrayal of Pearl became unforgettable. Of course, many secrets from the show may never fully come to light. But one thing is clear. Max Baer Jr. didn't just survive after the Beverly Hillbillies, he reinvented himself. When the series ended in 1971 after 9 seasons, Baer faced a challenge many actors know all too well: typecasting. To the industry, he was Jethro, and that made it difficult to land new roles. So instead of fighting it, he changed direction. He moved behind the camera, focusing on writing, producing, and directing. And it paid off. In 1974, he produced and starred in the film Macon County Line, which became a major success, earning around $30 million at the box office. 2 years later, he followed it up with Ode to Billy Joe, inspired by the hit song from Bobby Gentry. The film brought in another $27 million. At the time, using a popular song as the foundation for a movie was a bold and innovative move, and Baer was among the first to do it successfully. In the 1980s, he aimed even higher. He attempted to secure rights to Like a Virgin by Madonna for a film project, but the network pushed back. That dispute led to another lawsuit, and this time Baer won, receiving a judgment of over $2 million. Then, in the 1990s, he returned to his roots in a different way. He acquired sub-licensing rights to the Beverly Hillbillies from CBS and turned the brand into a business opportunity, installing themed slot machines in casinos. Once again, it proved profitable. Today, his success speaks for itself. With an estimated net worth of around $50 million, Max Baer Jr. stands as one of the most financially successful cast members from the series. And, interestingly, much of that fortune didn't come from acting at all.